All right, people, welcome back on board. You know that sound. It is the Unfiltered Band, which means, yes, another episode of Unfiltered coming your way here and now. It is officially going to go down as episode 120 of Unfiltered, in October Unfiltered, on a Saturday at noon Eastern. We are live, getting ready for Game 6 of the World Series tonight, back at Minute Maid in Houston. Dusty Baker, 1 win away with those Astros against those Phillies. Framber Valdez, Zach Wheeler on the hill. And thank you, Unfiltered Band. You can always become a part of the Unfiltered Revolution anytime. Jump on Twitter at Casey Stern, then head into the bio, get on the YouTube channel. You can watch us there live at noon Eastern every day throughout the course of 2022 playoff season that could be over tonight. So maybe tomorrow's our last one of these for October Unfiltered here into November, mind you. You can also jump on board the Believe shop and get all of your merch, BLEAV, of course. We got a big show coming up today. Gibby will be back with me here in a few minutes. John Gibbons will join us. We'll talk about managing these two teams in this spot in a Game 6. Mike Gill, ESPN down in South Jersey, will join me. We'll chat with him about the pulse of the Philadelphia Philly fan getting into this Game 6 tonight. Is there still some magic left for Philadelphia after this momentous ride of momentum that they had been on that seemingly was shut down after that record-breaking 5-home run performance against Lance McCullers, put them up 2-1 in this series? Now they trail 3-2 heading back to Houston. However, it is not like Houston has not lost at home in a World Series. The Phillies, looking back to 2019, where the Washington Nationals won all 4 of those games in that World Series to go from bumpy roads to beautiful places on the road in Houston. Philly will need to do that twice to pick up this series. We always tell you we're thankful to be presented by our good friends at BetOnline. Basketball's back. BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. Latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends over at BetOnline. Your continued source for all your sports wagering information. BetOnline's got live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet your favorite sports teams, whether it's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, even golf. Head over to betonline.ag. That's betonline.ag to join. Get your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit, but make sure to use this promo code. It's BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. As we get started, looking ahead to game number 6, Valdez and Wheeler on the hill, and we get a chance to go inside the dugout and talk about managing these teams in this spot. Our guy Gibby is with us. Hello, Mr. Gibbons. How are you?
Hey, Aaron.
What's up, buddy?
Off guard, man. I can't believe how good you were reading that thing off.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's amazing how, like, when the script is in front of you, it's funny. I for years had to deal with on television a teleprompter, and you learn in live events those things don't come with you, so you learn to read without scripts. But when they're paying you, you make sure every word, Gibby, is exactly as it's supposed to be.
You're like one of the freaking politicians, man, using a teleprompter. You are big time.
Hey, man, I have, except my cabinet are ages 8, 7, and 5 here in this house, so it's a little bit difficult putting it together. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for hopping back on board. Let me start with this. Obviously, got to be a big, emotional ride for Dusty over the last couple of seasons. Now he's back here in this spot. He's a game away. Won it as a player. It's eluded him. And for whatever reason, you know how this goes, man. It's like, I go back to whether you're Dan Marino or, think of some of the greats in sports. If you don't win that big one and that's hanging over you, that monkey on the back, people look at it differently. Verlander doesn't win that game, right? And they win this World Series and he pitches poorly twice, let's say. Even when he won the Cy Young, people would be saying on Twitter, who cares if he won a Cy Young? He didn't pitch well in the World Series. Try and kind of, how much for you in big games that you managed, are you feeling these moments, and how were you able to not kind of take that into the game as Dusty tries to do the same thing tonight in a big spot, obviously?
Well, Casey, he's in a totally different situation, let's say, that I was, and most guys are, right? He's been around the game. He's got a ton of wins under his belt. He's been to the postseason over and over as a player and a manager. Yeah, he's never won that big one. But it's in, I'm sure that's front and center because he hears about it all the time. It'll be kind of like the icing on the cake, right? For a lot of the rest of us, it's not quite there yet, But I tell you this, yes, Houston fans, they could care less whether he wins it for himself or not. They want to win. They want to win and get that 2017, the cheating thing off their back, right? But it would be a tremendous thing. He's such a good guy. You know, I don't really know him that well, but just visiting with him and you listen to him talk, and it would be the perfect scenario, you know. But it's it's been a great series, I think. But you watch it, it's kind of funny. You watch when we talk about emotions in sports, right? And you go back to the beginning when Philly goes down there to Houston, they're riding high, they're sticking their chests out, they're playing good, they thump them that first game, right? And of course, Houston comes back, and then they go back to Philly and win the third game big. Now you kind of watch you watch Reese Hoskins and a few of those guys. They're walking they're dragging their bat back to the dugout, man. It's like one of these.
It's that
rides.
EKG, man. It's that roller coaster ride in the postseason. That's how quickly it changes. I mean, look, within game one, they're down 5-0, and Verlander's on the hill. And next thing you know, all of a sudden they come back, right? And then Wheeler, I got Wheeler in game two. Wait a minute, Wheeler wasn't right. Oh, now all the way down, right? And then you go back to hit the home runs up McCullers. Then you can't get a hit. And the momentum resets tonight. If they can jump on Valdez, who seemingly has been unhittable himself, and Wheeler looks like Wheeler and goes 1-2-3 in the first inning, all of a sudden, Philly fans can be booking where they're going to go watch game 7 in a second inning. I mean, that's right? It's how quickly it goes. And you'd love Dusty, by the way. I mean, and getting a chance, obviously, and I was on the set next to him at Turner for 2 years, and I've been friends with him ever since. He's look, very much like he's just a real dude. I mean, people think that because you're a player in baseball or a manager, you're not like the rest of us, but he very much like the rest of us. Just like you shop at Hall of Heroes at the mall for all the plaques behind you, so did I. By the way, I love the setup behind. What do we have? What is it? A diploma?
I go to Walmart. What did you say? What store did you say? I go to Walmart, for crying out loud. Where do you think I'm living?
Hey, look, man. Without Walmart and Target, I don't even know where I'd be, except a lot richer. Let me ask you about the Wheeler situation. When you were in spots where you knew that one of your horses, wasn't riding out of the stable the way he's supposed to, and Rob Thompson talking about his fatigue, and that's why he gets backed up into this spot. Now everybody's going to be watching that fastball velocity in that first inning. Do you worry about a pitcher like Wheeler, who certainly we know, look, he's kind of a calm, demeanored guy, but you got to have a certain ego to pitch the way he pitches, right? Do you worry about him trying to overthrow and trying to do too much to get that velocity up? If it's not there, what are you looking for early in this game? Take us inside the eyes of a manager as we watch Wheeler tonight.
Well, yeah, I know they're probably, they are concerned about some things. And, but gosh, if it's going to be his last start of the year, right? If he can't survive on adrenaline, something's wrong, and that's what I believe, he'll after an inning or two, even though he had to start the other day, he'll settle in and it'll be like a normal thing for him. But I mean, this is why they pay those guys those $100 million contracts to win games like this. This isn't, this isn't the Midwest somewhere. This is Philly, and they expect those kind of things. And he's that good. But he's running. I mean, you look at Houston's pitching. It's not like it's an easy feat. I mean, you gotta match them. I mean, they got the best pitching staff in the game, and they just keep running them at you. But guys like Wheeler, he's got to keep an eye on him. It's the last game, if they don't win it. So I mean, he's going to manage it. I'm sure, as tight as he has to. But he needs to step up. 2 starts in the World Series. One of your stud horses got to step up for you if you think you're going to win.
Yeah, look, you mentioned the use of pitching. Let's go there. I said before the series, and what the heck, look, we're all sitting there. You can't predict any of this stuff. But because, look, just to use a point you just made about adrenaline and Wheeler, I remember covering it being down on the field before in the 2019 World Series. Scherzer got back out there, and people didn't know he was going to pitch. They didn't think he can get back out on the field. He throwing before the game, the day before he ended up saying he could pitch, and people were like, oh my God, he looks like he's throwing without pain. The next thing you know, he's dealing like Scherzer the next day. So you never know. But I said before the series, my gut told me Phillies in 6, but I took the Astros because my brain said the pitching depth was just too crazy. And I'll give you an example. When you're sitting there watching Abreu, are you not thinking what I'm thinking? This dude could close for 27 teams. Like, if you don't have Class A Diaz or maybe one of other 2 guys, right? And I know you're a Romano guy. Who the heck ain't taking Abreu to go close for them next year? He pitched in the 6th inning for this team, Gibby, and his stuff is unhittable. on this
Hey,
team.
they got a handful of guys on that team that could close on some of these teams, or they'd be the primary setup type guy. I mean, it's incredible. They just keep running them after. If Houston doesn't win this thing with that pitching staff and the pedigree and something's wrong, or they're cursed. I don't know what it is, but I tell you what, with Houston, they have no need at all to ever give Schwarber anything to hit or Harper, right? Because the guys behind them are scuffling, man.
And in between them, to your spot, right?
Yes.
Hoskins is hurting them big time at the plate. I know he's had some great, ABs.
Realmuto's not doing anything. He got that big. He made a great catch on the other night. That was a game saver.
Yes.
But then Castellano behind Harper, he's not doing much. So if those guys pitch to them at all, shame on them. So the other guys they can do something.
Gibby, you mentioned Realmuto, and I was talking about this yesterday, and Smolty mentioned it in the broadcast. I think look, I'm not trying to he wouldn't give excuses to himself, but I'm just talking about reality. He's doing Molina right now. He's doing I've been playing every day for like months, and that's cyborg kind of crap for a catcher. You know that as well as I do, better than I do. This guy is having to catch all these bullpen arms we talk about the high stress. The catcher's doing the pitch sequencing for all these different guys against these Astros hitters, then the Padres and the Braves before, right? He's been doing it forever. How much do you think that just human nature, that's got to be taken away a little bit from him at the plate because he's had to be so locked in to all of the catching of these pitchers? It's rare, Gibby, to see a catcher hitting third in a World Series who's been playing every day for 2 months because of that, right?
No, I agree, but maybe you ought to ask Johnny Bench, Gary Carter's, the Carlton Fisk, those guys. That's back when everybody caught.
But look at the names. Look at the names you're mentioning, though, right? I mean, they're talking about the primo guys ever who could do things like this.
Oh yeah, well he's a primo guy, but I guess my point is, guys were back then caught every day, regardless. They would catch. And I'm not making an excuse or hammering the guy, but I think that's I think just so much of the postseason, especially the World Series. You're getting by on adrenaline. Everybody's tired, and you're forced to focus. There's no doubt it takes its toll. But the other day in Houston, Realmuto, he hit that home run to.
Oh yeah, well, you shoot McCormick.
Drove the ball the opposite field. The other night, the center fielder made a great catch. He drove the ball to right center field.
Could have been in trouble.
These power arms. Instead of everybody yanking everything, drive some balls the other way. Let them do the work for you. That's my point,
Yeah, and Gibby, that's something that sometimes it's easier said than done. I'll go back to, and
that's why I'm sitting right here, bro.
No, but look, I'll go back to, and I'll bring some Jays love into it. I remember being with Turner sitting there doing the games against the Indians at the time. For people who are like, oh, he called them the Indians. No, they were the Indians at the time, right? And I'm watching Josh Tomlin, who had a great story, but he's a pitch to contact guy who should not succeed at all, dealing against your guys in Toronto. And I'm like, how is this happening? Right. And I'm watching Joey Bats trying to pull too much. Right. I remember watching Andrew Miller. The only, and ironic, because I go back and I give him this because everybody remembers the Parrots with the homer, but I remember Encarnacion going the other way on Miller with away pitches and doing those sorts of JD at the time. Right. But it's easier said than done. How do you, as a manager, when you're watching that deal, you can't go up there and take the plate for every guy, right? So take me back to a situation like that when you're watching it happen, just like Rob Thompson is and Kevin Long, the hitting coach with his hitters. What kind of things are you trying to reinstall in a batting cage or before a game in the middle of a postseason in that spot?
Well, Casey, a lot of it comes down to these, they are who they are, right? Everybody knows home runs win. And most guys nowadays they're yank hitter, pull hitters, right? You don't have used to be your all-time greats. You would use the whole field, and these guys have the power to go the other way, but that's just not how it's set up, right? And so it's not like all of a sudden, okay, you can get to the postseason. Let's change our approach, right? I mean, because I guarantee they put in their head, and I used to say to these guys, hey, use that whole field. I have to let them do the work for you. There's nothing wrong with a cheap-ass single in the right field when they got the shift on you. It's all about putting the ball in play at certain times, right? Because a perfect example, like you were talking about us. And then, who was the lefty that came up and Batista came out and said he ought to be shaking in his boots?
Oh, that was the guy who started. Oh my gosh. He started game 4. He wasn't even supposed to be on the roster. Something with an M, and I can't remember what his name is.
Yeah, and it should remember. He was unbelievable. But he just kept,
terrific.
teasing us. and we were Yank, and that's what beat us, because we weren't that style, but it wasn't going to change, and maybe we were getting too macho, who knows? But and you go back the year before when Kansas City beat us, and they won the World Series. They didn't have a bunch of ton of power hitters, but they had some guys that could hit them. But they'd shoot that ball everywhere, man, and use their legs.
Right.
And catch, when you guys throw that hard and they're that good, if you think you're going to hit home runs off, and forget it. They may make a mistake, but that's going to be rare. That's why those guys both teams in the World Series pitching's good,
And there's no surprises, because I remember with those teams, look, it's the same way with Hoskins, same way with Real Muto, same way with Castellanos. And that's why I remember during that year, Donaldson was not happy with a number of pitchers who were trying to do this, but you understood what the game plan was against you. They're going to try and bust those guys in, and then they're going to go soft stuff away to get them to chase. And, that is effective if you can do it. Look, it's easier said than done. You got to get ahead of them. You got all of that. But the Astros have the kind of pitchers that have done that. Now, when you're looking at a guy like Framber Valdez, no secret. He's going to get ahead of you with that fastball, and then he's going to work that breaker. How much are you hoping to see the Phillies, if they see a fastball early in a count, try and be as aggressive as they can and take it to your point where it's pitched? Because we know he's a ground ball guy. If you try going lifting everything that he's got, you're going to play into his hands. Is the key, do you think, maybe look fastball early so you don't wait breaker, but take it where it's pitched and try and maybe get a couple of rallies against him? You may need to have a 3-hit inning to score a run against Valdez the way he's pitching.
Yeah, that's right. Sometimes you gotta simplify things. I think, like you said, easier said than done. It's always
of course,
easier.
Right. From here, it's easy. Yes,
exactly. But it comes a point in time. I think you got to analyze what's going on here. And Houston's pitching, and they got so many different type guys, but they can overpower you. You got sometimes just a little contact, maybe a little hit and running or something, with certain guys, maybe to generate some stuff. But I think it's important they get out to an early lead. But I will say this, Casey, Phillies, it's a tough place to play. There's no doubt. Those big northeast cities, man, they're tough. Even when you're at home, they're hard on their own players, right? Expectation. I think it's sometimes good to get away where you're the underdog. You go down to Texas, it's not nearly the same, I think maybe they'll relax a little bit more. I can remember in 15 when we played the Rangers first 2 games at home, everybody's excited and all that, but I think we were tight because we were at home. We went down to Texas, and I think we relaxed a little bit. So I think that may benefit Philly, but whatever's good, if something's going to benefit, it better happen tonight, I guess I'd say. But it's been a great series, man. And you know what? It's not that
the Phillies aren't going down without a fight.
No.
But the problem is, as you know as well as I do, and this is one of the things that, like, I could say as a media guy covered it 20 years, I always admire when I hear people still say that are fans, and it's like, look, I don't know any more than a lot of fans, but when you're around it, you kind of get the idea that, like, guys don't look motivated, they're beating themselves. You look bad when the pitching's great and you're getting out. Yeah. You look like the Phillies didn't fight any less in the game they got no hit than the game in which they hit 5 homers off Lance McCullers. The difference is that Christian Javier is a beast. I mean, you're watching that, Gibby, or you thinking, I was saying this yesterday, I'm watching this and I'm thinking that dude could win the Cy Young next year. And I'm not trying to go, like, if he pitches that way with that heater, and I understand they didn't let him stay in the game. He, has to be, look, in a full offseason stretched out to be a guy that now 30-plus starts. Okay, he's the man, right? Verlander could leave. He's a free agent. But when you watch Javier going back a couple of days ago to that no-hitter, are you looking at him the way, I think it was Ken Rosenthal, if you watch the broadcast, he said Kevin Cash texted him and said that's the best pitcher on either team. He looked like the best pitcher on either team, the way he pitched in that game.
Case, anybody Houston throws out there, you're going, wow.
Well, seemingly, yes.
Yeah, but there's something different. He's got that disappearing, he calls it or whatever, fastball.
Oh yeah, invisible. It rises, right?
Yeah, there's just so you got your work cut out for you. So I think you got to just hope that those guys their top guys are off. They had a chance early on Verlander.
They did
the other night. They
had a couple of chances.
Yeah, but then he settled in like the great ones usually do, right? So they didn't knock him out. So we'll see. But yeah, you're absolutely 100% right. When you're facing good pitching, your opponent, they're on.
You look lifeless.
Yeah. It looks like you're going through the. Oh, they got no energy.
That's right.
No,
right.
God, what are you supposed to do? Jumping jacks on the way back?
But as a manager, doesn't that tick you off when you hear that? Like, I hate when I hear that. It's like, because I'm thinking it's like, first of all, this is not high school or like an 8-year-old picking his nose in the outfield, right? Like a little league, like when my kid plays. Like these guys don't need to be motivated to play Game 6 of a World
No.
Series. If they look lifeless, it's because it's frustrating the hell out of them that they can't hit the dude they're facing because that dude it deserves to be on this stage in a Game 6. How much does it drive you crazy as a manager when you hear things like that about your group or any team that they're lifeless in this sport, knowing how difficult it is way more than we do from the couch to try and get hits against these guys in a postseason?
Well, Case, I said it over and over many times because I was asked that question. You guys you weren't into it tonight. And this is primarily in the regular season. That's not true. Maybe the other guy on the other side was good. You know what? So, it's baseball. A lot of people complain that it's too slow moving a game for them anyway. Well, when you're facing a great pitcher, it's even slows down even more. And that's just the perception you get. But there's no lack of effort normally. There's no, nobody wants to go up there and punch out 3 or 4 times. When you're a great player and when the whole world's watching. So that's unfair to those guys because they're feeling it. And sometimes you forget, hey, these guys are pretty damn good, man. They're in the World Series. They've done something right this year, and they've done something right their whole career to be at this point, But I think people lose sight of that sometimes.
I want to talk game within a game a little bit because I remember going back a couple of weeks ago, the Padres, they were getting crushed in a game against the Mets where they were stepping out of the box seemingly like every 14 seconds and calling timeout and trying to, get into a pitcher's rhythm. I bring that up specifically because of tonight's game and tonight's starter in Valdez. This is a guy who everybody is very open, and so is he about it, that he rides on emotion. That last year when he had a couple of World Series spots that didn't go well, and this year when he turned that around, that it was about kind of channeling his emotions. But he's going to walk you. He had 3 walks and 6 1/3 in the last start in this series. He's going to give you opportunities and put you in positions. You're going to need a big hit, right? Runner in scoring position, and it might be 2 outs, but he's going to walk a guy and extend an inning to put Harper up when he shouldn't. He's going to do those sorts of things. How much are you thinking that maybe the Phillies try to disrupt his rhythm as much as possible, kind of knowing that he's a guy, I don't want to say you can get into his head, but that when he's off and he loses command, usually it's about emotions. Are you trying to take advantage of that as the other team?
Yeah, I think you have to. And there's certain guys that they're not all like that, but there's certain guys you hear the talk in the dugout. You say, hey, step out of the box. I'm trying to distract this guy. He's one of those guys. And you better do it this year because next year when they have the
forget it with the pitch clock. The pitch clock. Forget it.
Yeah. So there's something to that, and you know how the game is. It can become a head game. I don't care whether you're a pitcher or the position player. It's always a head game, I should say. So any little thing you can get this guy off his game, put a little heat on him, distract him, whatever. Use it to your advantage. But it's I anticipate a really good game tonight. I really do, and I think Wheeler's going to step up. I'd love to see a Game 7.
There's nothing better in sport. I mean, there's nothing better.
Yeah,
there's nothing. Best two words in sports right after "let's eat," because that's always what sports about. If you're watching from where we're sitting right now, are Game 7. I mean, all the marbles, everything on the line. There ain't nothing better than that, no matter what it is. But I agree with you, and I think it's something that, like, game within a game, you watch tonight. Is if I'm the Phillies, I'm trying as much as you can to fluster him. If he walks a guy, that next guy, I want him more out of rhythm. I'm stepping out of the box twice, getting booed, let the crowd get angry. It doesn't matter because the pressure, and I wanted to go here. People always get this wrong. And I've talked to so many players over the years about playing on the road in these spots. And they always say the same thing. It's the opposite of what fans think. The pressure is at home. The pressure, people think you're comfortable at home, and you may be in the park, right? You may when the crowd's behind you, but the pressure is when the Phillies are at home in front of that crowd. The onus is on them to deliver for that crowd.
Yes.
Now Houston takes, Gibby, all these years of all the cheating and all the stuff that happened and trying to wash that away, all the win it for Dusty and he's 1 win away, this could be the last year with Verlander and maybe other guys, right? All of those things. How much do you think it's house money Phillies, not even supposed to be here, and we're looking at a spot where almost all the pressure tonight is sitting there on Houston?
Oh, yeah, I think I agree with it. The Phillies, in reality, should just let it all hang out, right? They got nothing to lose. other than, they believe they should be there, but in reality, they got in with the way they
They'll
did.
be proud if they lose this game. They'll be proud of the season they had.
Yeah, exactly. The Philly fans might not be,
Correct.
but
they will
but
be after like a week. It'll take a week, but you know what, right? This is a proud run that they're on.
I think, yeah, but I agree. The pressure's on Houston to close this thing out because it's tough to close it out. And then if you don't close it out tonight, now you're going, uh-oh. I mean, that's just how our mind works, and some guys are able to control the mind better than others, obviously. But they're all human beings and they all feel that emotion and they all want to be the hero. They all want to do all that. And nobody wants to be the GOAT or whatever, So that's the beauty of sports, and then we can sit back and watch, all of us, and be the experts and throw things, or and all that. And it's like the gladiators, man. They're getting in the arena,
Hey, and in that arena, look, I don't want to, like, to me, you sometimes attack and you got to go after guys, and as athletes and as performers, everybody's got that mindset, but you got to be smart, right? And that's why Bryce Harper walked twice in the last game in this series, and he's still aggressive early in counts, but once he allows it to get deep, which he will, he'll take his walks. His walks could be 4 times tonight. If that's the way that it goes, if I'm Valdez, he's going to walk 3 anyway.
If he doesn't,
I'm taking Castellanos. I got a nasty breaker that I know as long as I show fastball to Castellanos up where he can't get it anyway, and I can get ahead on him where he's either going to take it inside for a strike or probably swing a miss. He's not going to hit that. He can't, right? So worse, he's going to foul it off somewhere. He's not going to put it in play. Now he's mine. After one pitch, Valdez has Castellanos right literally in his own rocking chair because he knows with that breaker, he's just going to go further and further away, and Castellanos has no shot. Boom, right. A high fastball hitter. Long as you show him up high, he right in your wheelhouse too, where you're going to throw that breaker. How much do you expect Harper to almost have to maybe go outside the zone? If he sees a pitch up, Gibby, and it's away, if he wants to, maybe take it the opposite direction if he wants to put it in play and get in the outfield. How much will he maybe have to even go outside the zone to get a hit tonight because of how much they're going to say, hey, look, we're not going to Game 7 because Bryce Harper sent us there, regardless.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I don't think Bryce is that kind of hitter. I think he knows how he's successful. But I mean, if you bring it into the zone, he's ready for it, right? But he's got such great discipline. I don't think he's going to change his approach. And so basically, it comes down to it's a team wins, right? So Castellanos got to have to do something. They brought him in there to be that guy to protect Harper, whatever.
He's been great defensively in this postseason. Randomly, he's not a good defender. But
in defense to all these guys too, they've run into a pretty freaking good pitching staff too.
Oh, but the best in the sport.
The same thing. They shouldn't give Schwarber anything either.
No, unless because Hoskins hasn't done anything behind him,
and he can do it.
Can't hit the breaking ball. Can't hit the breaking ball. I mean, Vasquez got him on a platter too, and that's the problem. Is that if you sit there and you look at, because look, you could try. And you play with lineups all the time. And I don't expect there'll be, I don't think it's out yet, but I don't expect there'll be any change tonight. The one thing that I would say, though, is, and I would go back to earlier in the series when Valdez pitched, we saw Edmundo Sosa playing instead of Bryson Stott, and we saw Vierling in center who got caught flat-footed, and Alvarez, who, look, this is not, Altuve tagged up. Remember that play?
Yeah.
Guy
and then
not
on the air on that little
correct.
Short.
Correct.
He never should have.
Look, Sosa and Hoskins should have had that, but it wasn't a great throw by Sosa.
Right.
My point being, I said after that game on this show, Valdez pitches again in this series. If I'm the Phillies, it's the same lineup I have against anyone. I'm not changing it. I got Stott in the lineup, and I got Marsh in the lineup. I'm not putting guys out there, Gibby, who haven't been playing, and in that mode you got to be in. How much are you in agreement with that? What do you expect lineup-wise tonight?
100%. You know what? It's not like you're filling in with, or you're platooning with some seasoned veteran that's at the end, but
right,
he's been
not worth it. It's not worth it.
No, yeah, and there's enough pressure on these guys anyway. You put in some guy that isn't playing much, that's double the pressure, right? Triple the pressure. So I agree with you. I throw that same thing out, get out of the way, and see what the heck happens. Because
Stott's had good at bats. I mean, look, he hasn't had a lot of hits, but he's actually that kid's impressed me. He's had some good at bats in here. Like Edmundo Sosa, like to your point, it's like you're not putting in a guy who Vierling, especially, and look, I don't blame him. He's a good fielder, but here's a guy who's been a defensive replacement only the whole postseason. Then you're putting him as a starter, and he got caught flat-footed because he's not in that mode. Marsh is out there making these plays, and he's had a couple mistakes being in center field every day.
Well, yeah, that or I guarantee they probably didn't think Alvarez would go on that ball.
Well, also, but you got to be ready for that. You can't get caught in that spot.
No, not in the World Series.
No,
I can see it the game in June when you're you're scuffling. Yeah, but not that game.
No, hell no. It can't happen. All right, last one for you. When we sit here this time around tomorrow, you expect that we're wondering and planning in Houston for the parade or discussing a Game 7? The baseball world tomorrow will be doing what after this Game 6 tonight?
I think we're going to get ready for Game 7. I think Phillies are going to exhale today. They're down. And,
Game 7, so
they got nothing. They'll stick them chests back out. Maybe that's why I wore my red. Not really, but I get.
Well, I didn't know. I was going to say. I mean, it looked like. Did you like the powder blues, by the way?
Loved them, man.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
Yeah.
It's like they're ugly as sin, yet so beautiful. I mean, it's fantastic.
Hey, what was really cool? I was watching the game the other night and looked up there in Tim McGraw was in the crowd.
Yeah, revving them up.
Old Tugger, man.
Of course, dude. I love the powder blues, man. I mean, I've been wearing those all the time. It's not Halloween, Astros. Stop wearing orange.
I wish Houston would throw on them. Remember them crazy when the Houston used to wear?
No, the old school, dude. Are you kidding me? Of course. Yes, some of the best going back to the NL days back in the 80s. Yeah, Gibby, appreciate you. Thanks for all the time, man. Enjoy the game tonight, and thanks for all this. And we'll catch up with you soon. And I hope everybody's checking out the pod. I saw the second spot with Alex Anthopoulos. It was fantastic, and he's got some work to do on figuring out his own stuff here in the offseason. You keep smiling, man. Keep enjoying yourself.
He's just glad he's in the National League now for crying out loud.
Hey, out of that AL East. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you.
Well, Boston's got some work to get back in there, and the Yanks aren't quite. It's not anyway. All right, Case. Hey, thanks for having me on all these times. I'd love to do it again.
Are you kidding me, dude? You are the best, the genuine article, and also a terrific manager as well. And by the way, did you do all your evening? Like, so I'm terrible with these backgrounds. I've always had you can't see to the right of me. It has like success, hustle, grind. Like I'm big on like motivational plaques. They're all different heights. I don't use rulers.
Hey, my wife's an artist, man.
Oh my. She's into that stuff. Your stuff's got like a centimeter apart and like parallel and symmetrical. It's beautiful.
Beautiful. You though, people are focused on you. They like your face. They like your look. Me, they're looking around me because they don't want to look at me.
I got the face for radio.
I get rid of all that stuff.
I got to watch those cold sores. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you.
See you, Case.
All right, bud. There he is, John Gibbons. You want to talk about a gem. That dude is one of the best people in the sport, has been for a long time. We appreciate him for hopping on. He says there will be a Game 7. I know our next guest certainly hopes that that's the case. As we welcome in the host of the Sports Bash, you can catch it 2 to 6 East on 97.3 ESPN from Jersey, where the Philadelphia Philly fans, certainly in South Jersey, are. You tell me, Mike Gill, fill in the blank. They are what now a few hours away from Game 6?
That's a great question, man. It's the roller coaster ride. I mean, after Game 3, you felt like this team was winning the World Series. Now, last night, you know how it is in Philly, man. It's Negadelphia. It's this guy's got to get traded. This guy's got to go. You got to change the lineup. It's certainly, I've talked a lot about on my show how this postseason for the Phillies, Casey, has been filled with so many moments, just memorable moments that just don't happen. Game-winning hits, the bat spikes, the home runs, and it just came to a crashing halt. Like, I'm not here to sensationalize that you got no hit, but it's like all of these moments came screeching to a halt, and you're like, are they just out of moments? Everything to get here has been moment, memorable moment. Is there any moment left? The only memorable moment left would be to win the whole damn thing, right? That would be it.
You get to Game 7. I mean, look, I know you don't want to hear this, but I was just saying this before the game. I know you don't want to hear this. It would take a week, so cover your ears. But even if they lost today, you're going to be proud as hell for what this team accomplished.
Sure.
If they got to a Game 7, even more so, against this team that is, look, and I've said this to you before, This isn't just the deepest pitching staff in the sport now. I've been covering the sport 20 years. This is as deep a pitching staff. There have been bigger names at the front, maybe bigger closer names at the back. But that in the middle, you always got some Swiss cheese somewhere. There's nowhere. I mean, Abreu closing for 28 teams now. I mean, the fact that, look, we're not here right now, Mike, if he gets Verlander out 5-3 or 5-4 and hands Abreu the ball in game one. That's my opinion. The series probably over already. So this is a tough team you're facing.
We've been waiting for the depth to kind of even this series out, and now you're seeing it. I mean, the Phillies are relying, like, if they're going to go with Wheeler tonight, and if he gets in trouble, there's a good chance you're going to see Suarez to try to get him out of anything so that you have to go back to Nola. You know, it's almost like a high school pitching staff here where you're trying to use the same 2 or 3 guys to get you through a 7-game series, where the Astros don't have that problem. They haven't had any questions, even with the rain out. They didn't have to shuffle their rotation to try to get through this thing. They just stayed the course and went with it, and the depth is showing. This is where, like, the Phillies in the first couple series, San Diego's lineup just drops off after like 4, and you can wiggle your way out of stuff. You can't wiggle your way out of any problems in this series. So you get guys on, and look, they've done it. They have gotten out. They had a guy on third the other night. They end up getting the rundown and getting Gurriel in the rundown there, but every time there's a big spot, you're having to make your best pitch, and that grinds on you in a 7-game series. And you're starting to see the Phillies' depth just isn't at the same level. They've got some depth, but not at the same level as Houston does. And that's the difference for me in this series right now.
Look, I said before the series, I said it to you. Gut told me Phillies in 6, and Brain told me the pitching depth is too much. I mean, the Astros in 6. And look, we saw it. I mean, you know, I'm with Kevin Cash, and I've been mentioning you know, Ken Rosenthal mentioned the broadcast, texted him and said, Javier's the best pitcher on either team. He looked like the best pitcher on either team. With the stuff, that dude's going to be in a Cy Young conversation for a while if he stays healthy, only 25 years old. But I want to get to a couple of decisions that I think are key tonight. Let's start with the first one you already mentioned. Suarez. Based on the way he's pitched and how good he's been, you would feel really confident if he's starting Game 7. However, we've already seen Alvarado brought in. When you see a guy too much in any series or any postseason, there's too much of a book. There's too much knowledge, Mike. And we already saw a spot where he came in. It was an impossible spot. Bases loaded, nobody out. And he gave up 4 or 5 runs, whatever it was, right? Some inherited, some, turned over to him. If you're Rob Thompson, what does Mike Gill do? Suarez or Alvarado, 4th inning in this game, you got to go there, right? And what do you think Thompson will do?
Well, I know what Thompson will do. He'll go Alvarado. There's no question. He's going to.
So you think instead of Suarez, he won't go to Suarez first?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of conversation about and get back to the playoffs before the Braves series. Hey, should they break up Schwarber and Hoskins? Those guys weren't hitting. They were 0 for 17. Schwarber was. I think Hoskins was like 1 for 19 or something to that effect. And his message has been, if we do something different, that says we're panicking. And I guess you can ask the question, you're at Game 6, elimination at your back. Is it time to panic? That's not Rob Thompson. I mean, anybody who's been around this guy sees steady the ship, keep everything nice and normal. So I think he will play the book the same way. He did in Game 1. He went to Alvarado. He did the same thing in Game 5. He went to Alvarado in that spot, and it backfired on him a little bit because why? Alvarado hadn't pitched in 4 days, and he's one of those guys that just has to keep getting out there. If it's the same situation, I'm trying to think of when any option would come up that he would go with Suarez before, and I don't see it because 2 reasons. 1, that's the book. I go Alvarado. He's our guy. And 2, he still has to think that Suarez is his Game 7 guy. And I know you're thinking, well, you don't get to Game 7, but I can get to Game 7 with Alvarado because I trust him. That's where Thompson is right now. I think you would see Suarez in 2 situations. 1, same as the other night. Alvarado comes in the 5th, and I need another lefty later on in the game, 7th, 8th inning. That's the one spot. The other spot would be if Wheeler just doesn't have it from the get-go, and he just doesn't have the velocity, and they say, you know what, we need him to give us 3 or 4 innings, and we got to get him in early and piggyback them. They would be the 2 ways I would see Suarez get in this game. Otherwise, he goes in Game 7. Now, I said afterwards, Nola the other night, I said, because somebody said, oh, that's the last we've seen of Nola this year. I said, I wouldn't be so sure about that. They would use him in Game 7. But Thompson said yesterday the preference is to use Suarez in that spot.
Yeah, preference.
Yeah.
But you might not have a preference. You might need to get there.
Right. Exactly. Right? But that's my thing is the preference is to use Suarez, but he will use him in those two situations, in my opinion, is in that same spot against Alvarez in the 7th or 8th or 9th or whatever he comes up. He used him to close the Padres series. He brought him in to close the game.
See, that's Mike. That's the other spot. If you get into a spot in this game where he's got to bring Alvarado in the 4th, and then he's going Dominguez and thinking, hey, look, I can't. They're in their bullpen, let's say, and you're in a 2-2 game. I can't use the Brogdons of the world. The season's on the line. I'm keeping it where it is, and we're playing tit for tat. I got to get the hit before they get a hit, right? So I got to have Dominguez. I'm going to have Eflin, whatever the matchups are, whoever the guys are. And then all of a sudden you get the lead, and you're in the 8th inning, and Dominguez already went 2 innings, and Eflin already went an inning, which is feasible. You may go Suarez for 5 outs to close it instead of going to Robertson at all with a 1-run lead because you got to get there tomorrow. Because Lance McCullers is a guy you hit. Right now, look, we don't know. Is Javier going to start? Is he?
I was going to say, you think McCullers is going to start that game?
I think they'll both pitch. I think they both pitch. I don't know what order, but I think they both pitch. I think they would need them both, probably.
Yes, I agree. I would think Javier's got at least 3 or 4.
Start, and then McCullers going to get in the game. And if Nola can hang with Javier somehow, you're going to feel like all of a sudden you got a lead in this series in a game 7 because of the way you hit McCullers. So I'm just saying, it's like you got to get there. Here's the other. Let me throw this at you here because I was talking about this all series. I love the way Rob Thompson's managed. Look, I always say this about managers, and I used to say this to Dusty sitting with him on a set. We're breaking down game. Who the hell are we? Because look, there's only 30 jobs, the whole right, and you got to be. You're about one of the best 30 guys in the planet that can do this, right? That's why they're there. It bothered me that Sosa and Vierling were in the lineup earlier in this series. It didn't make any sense to me.
That's going to happen.
Vierling got caught. It should not happen. It may,
it will,
but it shouldn't, Mike. It shouldn't. Yeah. Vierling got caught flat-footed on the Alvarez play because he's not been playing every day in center, and when he comes in as a defensive replacement, where's it been? Left field, right? It's Sosa. It's not his fault. Hoskins should have made that play, but it's Stott's at bats. 12, 11. Those at bats matter even if he's making out, Mikes, because you got to drag out those guys and get them to wear down in this game. There is especially Stott. There's no way he's not at shortstop for me. Do you think there's any chance that we see Stott at short regardless? No. Yeah, see, that's a mistake for me, though.
No, I don't think so. Because, again, this goes back to if I change something, I'm panicking.
But you got to watch what's in front of you, though, Mike. Stott's been having way better ABs. You got to watch what's in front of you.
I agree. I like Stott in that situation. I also take it a step further. You mentioned Hoskins has to help him out with that play. Bohm has gotten to the point. Bohm was unplayably bad at
He's been way better. Way better.
He has gotten exponentially better.
Way better.
But it's to the point now where you've got to get Hoskins off the field.
But you can't do it this week. It's not going to happen this week.
Probably not, and I don't think he would. But we kept waiting for the moment that his defense would be an issue. Yeah. And that play the other night, he has got to make that.
He has to make that play.
That game, Casey, is a tale of 2 plays at the same position for both teams.
Mancini.
Martian center makes an error in the first inning. They score a run because they get the extra base, and they make the play in center field. McCormick makes the play in center field. Their center fielder makes that play. Yours doesn't.
Yes.
Hoskins misses a little league play at first base. It's a tough play. You got to make it.
Makes a brilliant
play.
And Mancini's not even a great defender, Mike.
Right.
He's not even a good defender.
Mancini hasn't played since September at first base, and he makes that play. And here's something else, Casey. Gene Segura hits that ball to right field. I think he should have been on second base. The throw goes over the cutoff man and goes all the way to third base. Segura's got to get the second, and then Mancini's not holding the bag, and maybe that ball gets down the line.
True, but Hoskins got to make that play. It all comes 100%. Back to Hoskins got to make that play. And unlike Marsh, who's been pretty good defensively overall, Hoskins been brutal overall. It happened with the Sosa play earlier in the series, but you can't do that now and take him out. My thing is, look, and I'll give you an example. I know people because you hate the Astros and all that don't want to hear about Alex Cora and all that, but I like Alex and know him a long time. And I'm sitting there in 2018 when the Red Sox won it. And Rafael Devers never played against lefties, ever. And Alex Cora, it was just a kid, just like Stott. He switched it up in the World Series. Devers gets 2 huge hits off the lefty in a win. Steve Pearce was brought in just to be the guy against righties. Cora's watching his ABs. They're just better than the other guy. He gets in, wins an MVP of a World Series hitting against right-handers. That is, not circle back to you. I hear you on not panicking. But there's a difference between like no one's going to say if Stott, who's your everyday guy, is in the lineup hitting 7th tonight, Mike. No one's going to say panic move by Rob Thompson because Edmundo Sosa's not in the game.
Agreed.
Sorry. Like for me, Stott's in the game. He's short defensively and he's at the plate for me.
I agree with you. I think you got to keep Stott going. And look, Stott hasn't had a big hit or anything.
But the ABs are there. The ABs are there. He's
working guys. He's grinding out. And you're just, if you keep working at bats and keep grinding out at bats, a big hit is going to come.
Correct.
I was at a game this year where he hit a walk-off homer. It was the game where Harper hit the grand slam to tie the game against the Angels, and then Stott hit the home run in the extra innings to win the game. He's got big hits in him. He has moments in him. I would play now. I don't know if I'd play Mark.
He's not afraid. Stott's not afraid.
Oh,
he's in the game for me. He's not afraid.
I think this kid Stott. He was really going pretty well in August, and he kind of slowed off a little bit. But at that point, Schwarber was really kind of struggling. The Phillies just don't have a leadoff man, a typical
right.
And I figured, you know what? Why not throw Stott? Because he takes pitches, he fouls stuff off, he gets on base, he allows the rest of the lineup to see the pitcher. But I'm not hitting him lead off tonight, but I'm saying that's how much I thought of him this year. Was I would consider him a leadoff guy down the road because of the way he works at bats.
Mike, he's gonna hang in there against Valdez. He's gonna make him throw pitches, and you got to do that. And look, Valdez is gonna walk you. He's gonna give you opportunities, and let's go there next. He walked 3 guys in the last start. I said this. I had John Gibbons, I had Gibby on earlier, and I asked him this from a manager's perspective, and he agreed. Let me ask you from watching from where you sit. If I'm the Phillies, I am stepping out of the box. I am taking a little tick longer. There's no pitch clock yet. Taking a little tick longer to get Harper when he does that little. I feel like I could do it like Stance guy. I've seen it so many times now with that little hip shake and everything else he's doing, right? Because Valdez is a guy who we know his biggest bugaboo is himself. Last year, when he had 2 problems in the World Series, everybody on the team, including him, said emotions got carried away. We know and that's why he's not cheating, but all the little, I don't mean this in a bad way, but the little idiosyncrasies and the twitches and all that, it's all nerves. We know we got a guy who works with nerves. He's the anti-Zach Wheeler who looks like he got no pulse. Wheeler's learned that from DeGrom, basically. And they're 2 guys who look like they're not even breathing when they're out there. But Valdez is a guy, you're going to see the sweat. You're going to see him angry at an umpire. You're going to see him, laughing, but it's a nervous laugh when he gives up a hit. How much do you want to see the Phillies do anything possible, especially early, to get him out of rhythm, that game within a game as we watch Game 6 tonight, Mike?
It's a great point, and it's the whole thing of he's up there to the point where it was discussed so much here, Casey, about whether or not what he was doing, right in here, he's under here, he's moving
nerves.
all over.
It's just nerves, Mike.
But then you have to make that work against him, is the point. You've got to use that against him. If he's going to do that, because he gets into a rhythm with it.
He's nervous.
He does this, but it's all on the same rhythm. If you get him out of that rhythm where he does this.
Just like a batter like Harper, right? Same thing.
Correct, yes. It's a great point to try to get him out of the rhythm. And by the way, this World Series is a whole bunch of firsts, right? It's the first DH. Harper's not even playing in this game if the DH isn't involved in the game. It's the last where there's no shift, and it's the last with no pitch clock. So you better take advantage of all these idiosyncrasies before they go away, right? And tonight's the night, because it was – and I'm wondering how much this is discussed or in their minds of watching this guy and what he's doing, because it was all over the place here. They talked about it a lot. About what was he doing, the videos and everything.
It's just nerves.
Right. And it's not that maybe he's not cheating, as you said, but I'm wondering if the Phillies are watching him and thinking, all right, if he's doing all this stuff, we got to slow him down.
Yes. And that's the thing. You got a guy, especially because here's the thing with Valdez and watching him all year. And look, he's fantastic, right? He's a really good pitcher. And he's, for people like you and I who love this sport for years, He's a guy who could have pitched in the 80s and the 90s because he'll go 7. Like, we don't have that anymore, right? He'll go now. He not tonight because they got a chance to win the World Series, but he could any game literally give up 3, but go 7 or 8, and we don't have those kind of guys anymore. But he will walk the wrong batter in the worst spot and then find a way out of it. He's the guy who will walk Real Muto and get Harper up in a big spot he shouldn't have him, and then find a way to get a ground ball. And he's done that. But you got to make sure to make the walks count. Philly's 0 for 18 in a stretch with runners in scoring position. Mike, he going to put guys on, to your point of running. I think you're trying to run. You're trying to, do whatever you can. Be aggressive, ball in the dirt if you can get it. But the Phillies are going to have to get a big hit somewhere early in this game. Early, first 3 innings, where they're going to get a chance. Valdez is going to gift you a chance to get an early run. The Phillies going to have to come through or else they're going home tonight.
Yeah, and they left 12 runners on base the other night. They got no hit the night before. You would have to think, are you just in – look, you hit 5 home runs the third game. You hit nothing, and then you had 12 men left on. Is there something in between happening tonight? And that's where you're talking about. If he gives you guys on base, I've got to get something going with those 12 runners on base. If I'm getting runners on base, and they had so many opportunities, and right now – in the Braves series, in the Padres series, everybody had a moment. Rhys Hoskins home run, hit 2 home runs on the Saturday night game against the Braves. Gene Segura had the hit against the Cardinals. Brandon Marsh had the home run against the Braves. Castellanos had the hit in the game against the Braves in game 1. Bohm had the hit in the game. Everybody seemingly had something, and now nobody has anything. So somebody's got it. And you know who's big in this spot? I'm very interested in this. We're talking about lineups and doing things. Real Muto's really been struggling. He hits that ball that McCormick catches. But if you're Rob Thompson, do you move Real Muto and Harper and flip those guys? Because Castellanos is giving you nothing behind Harper, to the point that they didn't care about putting him on base the other night because they know Castellanos has got nothing in the tank. This guy,
he did hit the ball hard that Pena caught. He did. Look, he ripped that ball. Let's just be fair. He did.
But his pitch selection, he's just swinging out of his shoes. He's all over the place.
And Valdez is a terrible matchup because of that. Because he's a back foot. You're going to put that breaking ball in the dirt, and Castellanos going to swing at it.
So on a night like tonight, I feel like Harper has to have a more patient hitter behind him, because you can't allow the Astros to not have to throw to Harper, because they know the guy on deck is almost – I coach baseball. I actually won the World Series. How about that, Casey Stern?
There you go. Congratulations. This is your acceptance speech. Congratulations.
At the 13-year-old level, I won the World Series. And I tell my kids all the time, the pitchers, the batter will get himself out if you just listen to what I'm telling you. The Astros know that Castellanos will get himself out. You don't have to get him out. He'll get himself out.
You never have to throw a strike.
Cannot afford that behind Harper.
You do not have to throw Castellanos a strike ever.
Correct.
And that is, you have to throw Harper strikes. Now, the thing is, the other part of that is, and I said this earlier with Gibby, and it's probably going to be the way he says, Harper not going to get out of himself. And that's what's made him great. And I get all that. And he walked twice in the last game. And I get that, right? But there are run-producing opportunities. The RBI is this forgotten stat that people want to kind of crap on and say it doesn't exist, and it's not important. But one of the things that even the great and most patient hitters have done, right? And I think about a guy like Sheff, who I work with, Gary Sheff, who struck 82 strikeouts, I think the most he struck out in a season. Think about how crazy that is now.
Unbelievable.
But guys even who were that patient then, Mike, a ball up, when I got a runner at third, less than 2 out, they're going to get the sac fly because they're going to swing outside the zone because they know they can put it in the air. Bryce Harper may have to somewhere in this game, knowing that they're not going to give him anything. If he sees something up from Valdez, who's a ground ball pitcher, and he can get him up, even if it's going to be the other way, taking it where it's pitched, and he knows he can't do damage on it, but he knows they need a hit, right? He may have to go outside himself a little bit, which I know is unfair to ask of a hitter who's been so great because he's been this way, but he may have to get a hit somehow, and they may not make a mistake to him in the zone, Mike.
The whole point is, and your point is very valid, is that he's going to have to – it'll force him to swing at something he doesn't want to because he doesn't trust the guy behind him.
He may have to.
Right. He doesn't trust the guy behind him, so he starts to get at bats where he's swinging at pitches that he doesn't want to swing at
But he can
because
get hits anyway, and that's the thing.
yes,
Because he's
and
Bryce Harper.
if you look at Bryce Harper, they flashed it up on the screen the other night. He's hitting like 346 in the postseason. The rest of the lineup is like 210. Terrible. They got nobody hitting. This has all been moments. These have all been big spots, and that's the whole thing. Is you can't keep waiting for these moments. At some point, these at bats have to become professional at bats. Taking pitches, working counts, get yourself on to where you have runners on base. You can't just keep relying on the moments. If they're going to win this thing, it's going to be because their offense started to get back in clicking at the same time, not just relying on home run. And look, they've had a lot of big innings where they haven't hit home runs. They scored 6 runs in the Cardinal game, no home runs. I mean, they scored a bunch of runs the other night, no home runs. They do have it in them to matriculate a bunch of at-bats and get them going. But, baseball, you have 2-3 days where you're just not going well. Those 2-3 days turn into 3, 4, 5 days. You can't have that happen right now. That's the concern is you're going so well, you're getting the big hit, and then you just don't. That's baseball.
And it's baseball at this time of year. I want to ask you one more, and because I love digging it, and these are the kind of things that we'll all be sitting there watching. It's certainly easier from where we sit. As good as Framber Valdez has been, I think the Phillies can hit him. Second time in a series is difficult for anybody. He's pitched a ton of innings this season, and he's a guy who's going to give you opportunities. Because, look, one of the things you go back to, I don't know if you were obviously watching the Phillies, but in the Yankee series, he had a double error on one play defensively. And that goes back to, again, the nerves. He was forced in a spot to field. It was a swinging bunt, and he made 2 mistakes in the same play. I'm sending a runner. If a ball's in a dirt, I'm making him move and making him think. But you're going to have to hit him in this spot. I don't think, Mike, and this is a problem, with the Phillies' inability to hit a fastball right now at a high level, and they can't. I don't think they can hit Abreu today or tomorrow, and I don't think they can hit Montero. I think they can hit Presley before they hit those two. I don't think they can hit either of those guys because they're turning 98, especially Abreu doing it with that plane from like 8 feet tall. They got no shot. Is it fair to say in your mind, if they win this game tonight, it'll be against Valdez, or do you really think that they can hit this Astro pen with all the fastballs they're throwing? Seemingly to me, the Phillies, this lineup, matchup-wise, is not going to hit that Astros pen. They're not.
No, they got to Montero the other night. They got the run off of him. But you're right. Well, okay, we're talking about the Phillies and how everything is they're not getting that big hit, that big moment. The Astros, what, 0.88 ERA right now? Do they have an implosion in them? There's 2 games left. Do one of these 2 games, the most improbable thing happen is that the Astros bullpen, which has been unfiltered.
It's been brilliant. Yes,
exactly. So can they, and look, they're going to keep managing the game that their bullpen's been brilliant. But one of these nights, do they have that implosion in them? That's, I mean, you're that in the back of your mind at all, that they cannot continue to just be this precise and perfect.
It's the matchup that's bad. The Phillies against fastballs right now are just a mess.
Oh, I mean, this is a great, talking about kids, and everything I hear is like, oh, I throw velo and I got this great velo. These guys are throwing 99, getting hit around the yard, and Javier comes out the other night throwing 93, 94, spotting fastball. The fastball just had late bang off it.
He was perfect, Mike. Perfect.
And it's like, hey, you hit my best pitch. You can't do it. And he just attacked the zone. And that's what I think that bullpen, that's why you're right. Their bullpen knows I can attack the zone against these Phillies hitters.
They're not afraid, man.
They're not. That's why it's such a bad matchup. And you're right. If you are in a spot when this game's close and you have to try to score runs off that bullpen, this isn't that's not the formula.
You're going to have to get Valdez, and you're probably going to have to get him early. You're probably going to have you may have to win this game, be up 3-1 in the third, and somehow hold it there the whole time.
But you said it. The one guy, Presley, they have seen him a bunch.
I think they can hit Presley. I do.
Right. And he won't show you a fastball the whole series. I don't think I've seen him throw one fastball. So if you can get to a point and it's close, is he the one guy that might have the night where you can get to him? I think Abreu, Montero,
Abreu, you got no chance. Abreu, forget
no shot.
it. I mean,
But
no shot.
Presley's the one guy you're wondering, can I get
Yes.
one big inning against him in one of these games?
Abreu is the best pitcher in either bullpen. I mean, I really believe that. I've seen, from what I've watched in this series, I mean, that dude is, I mean, he is unhittable. His stuff's stupid right now, especially because the downward plane from his height of when he is sitting there and throwing a slider to you after throwing 98 up and in. I mean, that's how Edwin Diaz is getting outs.
He's so good.
He can do this so good.
And he looks like he's having fun doing it, too.
Dude,
he's just
so
kind of
good.
smirking, smiling.
I mean, you're talking about like stars that come in the postseason. I mean, you know, that's one of these dudes who, let me tell you something.
Casey, this has been the Phillies' downfall going back to when Kapler was here. They had no bullpen. Kapler should have been given a bronze star for getting this team to 500.
Especially when those guys got injured, right? Neshek, Dominguez, Robertson. Who am I missing? Other guys, too. But those three all went down after they signed him.
Right. They had no bullpen, and somehow he had this team in contention, which is unbelievable. Yeah. Now, you're counting, though, when you look at the Phillies bullpen, you got Journeyman, Alvarado. People forget the Rays of all teams.
Mikey in AAA this year.
Yeah. The Rays of all teams, who know way more about finding guys and unlocking the key than anybody, they gave up on them.
Yep.
And the Phillies had to say, we're so bad in our bullpen, we'll take your cast off. And he's turned into one of their best guys. You just said AAA. He was unpitchable. You could not use him. He could not throw strikes. So you're counting on Robertson, a guy who was pitching for Team USA just to try to get back on the radar. Dominguez, who hasn't pitched in 3 years. Dominguez hasn't pitched since 18.
And now you're riding him. And now you're riding him in 2-inning spots where, you know, like anybody. That's how I've said this for years. Like, if Kenley Jansen lived a different life where there was anybody between Kershaw and Kenley Jansen, we might be talking about the greatest closer of all time. The amount of times he was thrown in extra innings that he shouldn't have been in the 8th and a 9th and all these different. That's why he got exposed. Like, you can't do that with Edwin Diaz. What happened to Josh Hader? The Padres at first were using him too much, and they realized, nope, we got to go 3 outs. It's not the way it's handled anymore. It'll be interesting to see tonight what happens. Let me close with this. Tomorrow at this time, Philadelphia, when you sit there and you look at your text, so the text is going to be about where the hell are we watching Game 7, or can you believe it's over?
Unfortunately, I think they're out of moments. I just think they're out of moments. Wheeler, if I told you, Casey Stern, the Phillies were in the World Series, they're in Game 6, and Wheeler and Nola haven't won a game yet, you'd laugh right in my face.
I would have said no chance. I would have said no chance.
So they're here.
He got to win tonight.
Wheeler on the mound.
Got to be him. Yeah.
I just feel like Wheeler isn't Wheeler right now. I feel like he's emptied the tank and he's out of gas. I mean, he did not look good. You would think, Casey, wouldn't you want Wheeler pitching at home in Game 5 if you had the opportunity?
No, he's fatigued. He's fatigued. But I will say this to you. I will say this to you. Much like the guy who he idolizes and learned from, who's not that much older, in DeGrom, the guy he emulates, right? He can go win tonight without his best stuff as long as he knows going in with Real Muto that he doesn't have his best stuff. Yep. Because he's going to have to alter the way he pitches a little bit, but his stuff, Mike, is good enough to keep you off balance where if he throws 94, 95 tonight and just focuses on where, not how hard, to your point, he is more than good enough. Give you 6-7 innings, give it up a run or two. If he goes in trying to pitch like I could blow it by you when he can't, because he is, from an ego standpoint, which happens to a lot of athletes, can't admit to himself, right? He's gonna get shelled and be gone. But I think if he comes out and pitches instead of throws, he could do what you need to do and get you to Game 7.
Yeah, and for me, this game, and you're absolutely right, but for me, this game isn't about the pitching. To me, I just don't think the Phillies offense, I think they're in that spot in the season where you're just not having it. And the moments are out. They're out of moments.
It's been 2 days, though, but they had moments 3 days ago. I mean, you know, I'm just trying to take the other side.
But keep in mind, Casey, keep in mind, they've been having moments since the Cardinals series. You're wondering, when are these moments going to run out? I mean, Rhys Hoskins hitting 2 home runs in a game. Rhys Hoskins bat spike. I mean, this guy, people want to I can't wait to see who's the next first baseman in this town. And then he's hitting home runs all over the place. I just feel like the offense is out of gas right now. JT looks fatigued. He's played. I think Smoltz brought it up on the broadcast.
Yeah, he
plays every single
be
game.
exhausted. And
Right.
he's in all those max effort. For a catcher, all the pressure is on you with all those different bullpen arms and all those things. And I got to let you up, but I want to say this, right? And just let's be fair about this. Here's the best thing you got going for you tonight. More than any game you could imagine in a World Series between two teams, there is such a discrepancy of house money versus pressure tonight. I know Bryce Harper not going to feel that way because he has to win and in his own mind, right, all that. But the truth is that stuff plays. The Phillies aren't supposed to be here. They're on the road. They're facing a team that's had all this great stuff, and they're a better team. The Astros have years of cheating, and we don't like you, and Dusty's a win away, and we got to win it for Dusty, and Dusty's managing. I love him. Like, I'm one win away. I'm this many outs away. The Astros fans are sitting there thinking about this moment. The Phillies don't have to worry about trying to impress their own crowd or the onus, which I know they feel in a good way, of the heartstrings of let's do it for you. That is a great thing going for your ball club tonight. There is total house money for Philly tonight, and there is an exorbitant amount of pressure, more than any World Series situation, Mike, because they're not playing for 2022. They're playing for 2021, 2020, 2019, and 2018 and 2017. They're playing for all of that. That may be something you notice in this game. The Phillies are going to play way looser, I believe, than the Astros, and that may early in the game be a factor. I would not be surprised if we're here again tomorrow.
Yeah, it's I had Carl Ravitch on with me yesterday, and he brought up that same exact point that they're playing to show people that they don't need to cheat to win.
A lot of pressure.
That there's all that pressure on them to do it at home, and the Phillies, who had all this pressure of winning every game at home, and then when they didn't, it was, all right, we're not this invincible home team. Do we just need to get away to kind of get everything back clicking again? I think it's a great drama of all these storylines kind of coming together tonight. I just feel like the Astros' depth has gotten to the Phillies, and it is wearing them down.
I agree, but don't be surprised if Phillies get to Valdez early, and your depth, which will have to be brilliant, ends up being the story. Can those bullpen arms hold a lead if they can get it? We'll see. Mike, appreciate you, man, and thanks for all this time. Have fun watching it with the family tonight, and hopefully for your sake and the Philly fans that they can hold off therapy for at least another day.
It's a beautiful day at the shore, man. It's like 80 degrees at the beach right now.
Oh, enjoy that. Enjoy that.
Crazy.
I miss it. I'm landlocked here in Atlanta, and I cannot stand it. I grew up with 5 minutes from the water, and I miss it like desperately. So please.
It is like an ominous feeling that there's a baseball game. It's November. It's 80 degrees. I literally, real quick, I was in Atlantic City. I stayed in the casino last night. I went to the Bare Naked Ladies concert. That's why nice. I was like,
old school.
I wasn't sure.
Oh
right?
My God.
And I was in my hotel room, and I looked out, and people were on the beach in the water today. That's how nice it is here.
I love that.
Yeah.
Enjoy that. Now that you made me feel terrible, enjoy the game, and I still hope your team wins for you.
Bare Naked Ladies. I feel old, right?
Hey, look. I mean, now you got me in the like Blink 182, and like going back
here
to
in March.
Smash
They're
Mouth.
coming to the beach.
Are they coming
Blink
to the beach?
182 is playing the beach in Atlantic City on March 27th. Yeah.
Okay. All right. See, I mean, where else can I get this information? I appreciate you, bro. Thank you, Mike.
All right, buddy.
All right, there he is, Mike Gill. Tremendous stuff. Appreciate him. And, of course, thanks to John Gibbons as well. We'll be here tomorrow at noon Eastern. I don't know for now whether or not we'll be capping the season. I'm playing it like everybody else. I haven't even just taken you inside them. I haven't even booked any guests yet because I'm taking it. I don't know if I'm capping a season or if we're getting ready for a game 7. So I'm going to be with everybody else trying to kind of see and feel out where this game goes. Just to kind of recap quickly, some things to watch early. Watch the Phillies try and get Valdez out of rhythm and try and get on him early. Even if they have to gamble, whether it's trying to take a base, whether it's trying to, go ahead and whether it's, some little stumble in an outfield in a single or, a ball in the dirt, trying to extend and get into scoring position, trying to force him to get a little bit more wild. He's going to walk you. He's going to put you in spots. Watch how the Phillies manage the game. If Wheeler does not have it, does he have to go to Suarez, who we know he wants to start in game 7? Does he go to Alvarado? I think he trusts Suarez, probably Rob Thompson does, more than anybody in his staff right now. Will he go to him anyway and say, hell with it? Nola's going to have to do something eventually. Maybe you shorty with him tomorrow and see where we get. You got to get to that game 7. How is it managed? How early does he go Dominguez and all of that? And watch the visibility of pressure. Always the pressure is on the team trying to close out. That's why it's hard to get the last one. But I don't know that you can tell me the last time ... in a World Series game, in a closeout game, where that wasn't for a sweep, where it's always no pressure on the team that's about to be swept, right? In a game 6 spot, there is so much, an exorbitant amount of pressure on Dusty trying to do this one more time and finally do this. The Astros trying to really wear 6 years on a back, not 6 games in this series. And a Philly team that nobody expected to beat the Cardinals 2 out of 3. Let alone ... that got them here. Sometimes in the margins, that pressure creates mistakes you're not used to on Houston side, creates maybe some nerves that we know Framber Valdez is trying to avoid, and creates opportunity knocking on that door on the streets of Philadelphia one more time. We thank you for being with us one more time. Episode 120 in the books. Apple, Spotify, everywhere you get your podcasts. You can catch them all the conversations, all the postseason shows. We'll be back with you live at 12 Eastern, noontime tomorrow on Sunday, either to get ready for Game 7 or get ready for the offseason. We thank you for being with us. And as always, we thank our good friends at BetOnline, because Unfiltered in October, Unfiltered is always, even in November, presented by our good friends at BetOnline.